We all know nothing beats the energy of playing live roulette in a casino. But playing roulette online sure does have its perks. At the casino, you'll average 40 to 50 spins per hour. But online, you're looking at 100 to 150. The more spins, the more chance of wins. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
4 number ones, 4 champions, 4 teams that battled and clawed their way here. But here's the thing about 4 number ones. Only one can truly be number one.
Incredibly difficult.
When the stakes are highest, there's only one place to get all your betting insights. SportsGrid. We've got you covered until only one remains. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of thoughts.
18.5 points live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on sport.
Hello and welcome to a Thursday Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are here together for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time. A Thursday morning to look back on a jam-packed Wednesday in Major League Baseball. The MLB campaign now officially hits its 1-week mark. We will break down everything we are seeing around the bigs as the second set for most teams this year in MLB has come to a close. We are exactly 3 weeks away from the 2025 NFL Draft. Any NFL news and notes that you need, we deliver here, even interviewing the best and brightest as they look to take that next step to the next level. That will come your way in hour number 2. NBA action down the tail end of this regular season. We continue to take an early look at the Final Four on Saturday night in San Antonio. All of that and plenty more, DRS, over these next 3 hours, live right here on TEL.
Absolutely. Tankathon continues in the city of Philadelphia tonight as they are a double-digit dog to the road team coming in, the Milwaukee Bucks. We love the tank and think about draft prospects here in Philadelphia, but there's no tanking this weekend in the Final Four. All 4 number 1 seeds going to line it up in San Antonio, Texas, and we're waiting that. Major League Baseball had a plethora of afternoon games yesterday, which leaves us to 2 teams that may never lose a baseball game and 1 team that may never win a baseball game. Good times right now in the early month here of April.
Let's dive right in, DRS. Those 2 teams you are alluding to in the same division, in the same league, in the same general geographic area in Southern California. Let's start with the reigning World Series champs, off to a 7-0 start. Best for a World Series champ entering a new season since the 1933 Yankees. And it did seem as though early yesterday at the Ravine against the winless Atlanta Braves, it would come to a close. The Dodgers were down 5-0 very early against Atlanta after the top half of the second inning. But then LA rallied. They tied the game entering the 9th, and in the home half of the 9th, Shohei Ohtani, a long ball and gone over the center field wall, a walk-off homer to deliver the Dodgers their 8th victory to start the year. Showtime in LA indeed. 6-5 victory for the Dodgers. LA off to a perfect 8-0 start.
Yeah, I had good for the Dodgers getting 6 runs. I wasn't able to cash in any tickets because I needed Mookie Betts to get up to the plate and get a base hit. But Shohei Ohtani ended that bid for me in the bottom of the 9th inning by hitting a solo home run. What if I would have told you, hey, man, the Braves scored 5 runs, the offense is back. And then I told you every single run they scored was unearned off of Blake Snell. So is the team actually back or just trying to capitalize on errors from the other team? The Braves are horrendous at the plate, and it shows. And in a game they had a 5-0 lead, they still ended up losing that game to the Dodgers. They're going to win a game this year. Trust me. They have 162 chances. And yes, the Dodgers are actually going to lose a game as well this year. But the Braves, 0-7 for a team that was picked to win the division, but also the Braves have lost every single game this year to 2 teams that haven't lost a single game, so go figure.
Something about that, DRS, but the Braves did enter the year with the second best price to win the National League pennant, only behind the Dodgers. Atlanta off to an 0-7 start. No team that has started 0-7 in the history of MLB has ever made the postseason. But to Donnie's point, the Braves swept by the Dodgers to start 0-7, and in a 4-game set in the opening weekend against those San Diego Padres, who swept Atlanta in a 4-game series, and now the Cleveland Guardians in a 3-game set as well, including a 5-2 victory yesterday for San Diego at home, including a stolen home base by Fernando Tatis Jr. The Padres, a perfect 7-0, only a half game behind their Southern California rivals for the best start this year in Major League Baseball.
They keep hammering away. Fernando Tatis on this young season, 423 at the plate. Manny Machado, 400 at the plate. Jackson Merrill just signed a new contract here as a great young player, is hitting 417 at the plate, which included 2 more RBI yesterday and another home run as the Padres continue to roll. We like this ball club a lot. 7-0. Hey, first place, right? All by ourselves. You got to tangle with the Dodgers. Got to go toe-to-toe, and they're doing that right now. Good for them.
The Giants also 5-1 in the National League West, off to a great start in that division. A plus 25 run differential for the Padres to start this year. Let's get to some NBA action. The New York Knicks continue to struggle against the best of the best. But yesterday in Cleveland, it did seem as though New York was going to give the Cavaliers a test, despite not having Jalen Brunson. New York led by as many as 15 points in the second quarter to only lose that lead and then lose by 19. The Cavs rally for a 124-105 win. They cover as a double-digit favorite. The New York Knicks now 0-6 both straight up and against the number against Boston in Cleveland this season.
Tale's old as time in the NBA, right? Heavy favorite gets down double digits if you're just sitting back on the FanDuel Sportsbook and just firing away on the money line for the home team, figuring they'll come back and possibly win the game close. Yeah, they came back and won the game not close, 124-105. That was expected. Too many guys down in the starting lineup for the Knicks, but it was a surprising score early on. Better team outlasted them. 61 wins now on the season for those Cavs.
A couple of big win streaks entering last night inside TD Garden. The reigning champs, the Boston Celtics, had won 9 in a row. They were an 11-point home favorite against the Miami Heat, but the Heat on a surge, winners of 5 straight entering last night in Beantown, make it 6 in a row for Miami, winning outright 124-103 as that double-digit dog in Boston. 6 straight wins for the Miami Heat.
Yeah, the Boston Celtics last night in the bomb squad shot 43 times from three-point range, but only making 12 of those good for 27%. Not good enough for the victory. And by the way, it was a double-digit spread. Like, I actually thought the Celtics would roll the Miami Heat last night. Now, the Heat are on a back-to-back tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies, where it might be tough going from Boston to Florida. But last night, man, they handled their business in the Garden.
They had 6 guys score in double figures. Miami has won 6 straight right now in the 9 spot around the Eastern Conference standings. Boston nearly double the amount of losses, DRS, inside TD Garden as away from home this year. More basketball news. One of the greats to ever do it, Carmelo Anthony, has been elected to the Basketball Hall of Fame. A national champion at Syracuse in 2003, a 3-time Olympic gold medalist, and a 10-time NBA All-Star. Melo will now be enshrined in the Basketball Hall of Fame.
As much like tens of thousands of other people, I think the only criteria to get into the Hall of Fame in basketball is, have you ever dribbled a basketball in your life? Congratulations, Carmelo, you're in. You dribbled a basketball.
Well, okay, we saw all of where Carmelo has been throughout his time in a long, long stint in the NBA, one of the greats in modern era. Can't just celebrate the guy, DRS? Maybe hit one of those in honor of Melo? All right.
But yeah, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. So my
For
protest
sure.
is not with Carmelo, who was fantastic at every single level he played at. The problem is there's like 75 people that get inducted every single year. It's like, did you play basketball? You're in next year. Congratulations. That's what I don't like.
All right, fair enough. Minnesota Timberwolves will have new ownership, as we know, and it seems as though Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, and Mark Lore, whatever his name is, will officially own 100% of the team.
I love this too because they leaked the scenario last year, which again, the owner currently was trying to renege on the deal and say, we're not going to go with that. So here's the best part about it. The first thing that comes out is they want to take the payroll back. Like the fans got to love that move. Like we're getting new owners who want to immediately lower payroll. Terrible, man. Terrible.
Yeah, DRS's favorite story. How about Alexander Ovechkin? Goal number 892 last night. 2 away from tying the great one. 3 needed to end the regular season to set a new record in the National Hockey League. National Basketball Association up next.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Live right here on this Thursday morning on the Early Line on SportsGrid. Just about a week and a half remaining of this 2024-25 NBA regular season. Entering a Thursday slate that featured 9 games around the association. Everybody played at least 75 games of their 82 this year. So truly the home stretch of this season to solidify the postseason positioning, playoff standings around the NBA, and to try to play your best basketball entering the postseason, whether that's a play-in tourney spot or just from the playoffs from the very start. Last night, DRS, a couple of lengthy winning streaks at stake between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat inside TD Garden. The Celtics, the reigning champs, who had won 9 in a row entering last night, booked as an 11-point home favorite inside TD Garden, expected to make that win streak hit double digits. Miami entered last night winning 5 straight, but it's the Heat's win streak that continues as Miami is, in fact, heating up, entering play-in tournament time around the association. A 21-point win for Miami, 124-103, winning outright as an 11-point underdog on the road in Boston.
Yeah, playing better basketball for the Miami Heat. Obviously, that whole Jimmy Butler fiasco, which really dampened their season, but they're still 35-41 even after that victory. I mean, take a look at the starting lineup again. It's barely recognizable. Like, we know Tyler Hero, but Alec Burks slips into there now. Coco Beware is in the lineup, the great wrestler from the 1980s, and the great hockey great Pelly Larson in the lineup. You got to be kidding me. This is how they even winning games, let alone against the Boston Celtics. I thought the Celtics would wipe the floor at this team. They didn't. The Heat wiped the floor at the Celtics. Can we just get to the playoffs? Who cares about this nonsense? My goodness.
All right, that's a good start to all the NBA action we have to recap here. Pelle Larsson out of Arizona, Kel'el Ware out of Indiana via Oregon. Do not forget these players' names. 7 players yesterday for Miami scoring in double figures. A slightly different Celtics lineup, at least in the starting 5 in the front court. But Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White all played yesterday. Again, the C's were an 11-point home favorite. Donnie, 24-13. Boston's record at home this year straight up. 32-7 away from Beantown. Yeah. Any concern for Boston not being able to hold serve on home floor? Or is it actually a benefit for the C's, who are more than likely not going to be the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference postseason?
It's never a benefit. You fight the entire season for home court advantage. I don't care what that regular season is. You ask anybody, like, oh, Boston would rather be on the road in Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals against Cleveland. That's what they wanted all year long. Nonsense. But it just is odd that it shows where Boston should be damn near unbeatable at home, and they're beatable at home, but on the road, they certainly take care of business. But nobody's looking at that game last night, 21 points lost. Oh, we can't bet the Celtics now. We were always under the opinion, Ben, no matter what the score was in October or April. Once we got to the playoffs, it's going to be a different season for the Celtics, and they'll be re-engaged here. Still a very good season for the Celtics, but that was an ultimately underwhelming performance yesterday that we just saw.
The C's still trail the Cleveland Cavaliers by 5 games for that top spot in the Eastern Conference. With only about 6 games remaining for both teams, it does seem as though Cleveland is going to be that number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Just a moment of time, of course, until the Cavaliers officially book that number 1 spot. So a lengthy winning streak for the C's. Winners of 9 straight comes to a close. Miami now on a 6-game win streak. They have covered in all 6, including 2 outright victories as an underdog. But the longest win streak right now actively in the NBA, that's the Oklahoma City Thunder, the best team in the Western Conference, already officially the number 1 seed out west. Make it 11 consecutive wins for OKC. And in all 11 victories, DRS, a cover as well. Even last night at home against a playoff Pistons team, Oklahoma City wins by 16, covering as a 13-point favorite. So 11 straight victories, 11 straight covers for Oklahoma City. The Thunder have even covered 5 times in this spread as a double-digit favorite.
Yeah, you take a look at last night, not even bringing their A game and so easily winning at home by double digits, which are now 35-5 on their home court. You look at that starting lineup. Boy, you got a lot of good balance last night. Holmgren, 22 points. Williams, 23 points. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, automatic in the low 30s at 33 points. Lou Dort, 14 points. Cason Wallace, 13 points here. That worked out really in their favor. They're sleepwalking right now, and they're continuing on this win streak heading into the playoffs. You got to love what you see, which we're starting to put to bed that notion of, once the pressure ramps up on OKC, maybe it's going to shut down a bit. It's not shutting down at all. 64 wins on the season.
64-12 for OKC. The Detroit Pistons right now in the 5 seed around the Eastern Conference. Half game up on the Milwaukee Bucks. they could be playing the Indiana Pacers, or if they fall to the 3 spot, it could be a road trip to Madison Square Garden to get things started. Detroit overperforming expectation this year, first year under JB Bickerstaff. The reason I bring this up, DRS, is because early in the year, the Pistons were booked as an underdog. Again, outperforming that odds expectation. Last night, just game number 6 for Detroit as an underdog since the All-Star break, meaning the market has settled when they are playing better competition, thus booked as the underdog. Just 2-4, both straight up and against the number in those 6 games as a dog since the All-Star break. Also important for Oklahoma City. Again, they clinched the number 1 seed in the Western Conference last week. But now, courtesy of this 11-game win streak, they have a 3-game advantage over the Cleveland Cavaliers for the best overall record in the NBA. Why is that important? OKC is guaranteeing not just home floor advantage, DRS, throughout the Western Conference playoffs, but of course in any potential NBA Finals matchup against anybody. Now, OKC still not favored to take on Cleveland. It is Boston right now based on the odds, but the Thunder, the NBA title favorites at plus 175 and looking the part of it here entering this postseason stretch.
Yeah, you get the psychological advantage there, right, of the Thunder saying we don't even have to win a single basketball game on the road. As long as we win at home, we will be NBA champions. Now, we understand that. You're going to have adversity. You're going to lose home playoff games because you're going to play good basketball teams. But always having that notion, if we're in a Game 7, no matter what the deal is, we are going to be at home in our own building where we absolutely can flourish. Like what I see out of OKC at this point, we'll see it in the playoffs.
Yep, and that's still the question for the Thunder. This young core hasn't done much of playoff success, but last year maybe taking their lumps, losing in a second-round series against Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. You hope to gain from that experience and pay off what you have done in the regular season. Let's head to Cleveland on the other side of the break. A matchup between the Cavs and the Knicks up next.
Can you handle the heat? If you don't mind the desert at the hottest, consider visiting Vegas in the summer, where the temperatures are high and the prices are low. Have fun! See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Thursday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. About a week and a half remains in this NBA regular season. Donnie Rightside cannot wait for the NBA postseason to begin. That includes the play-in tournament He is just tired of the regular season. And how could you not be, right? The Cleveland Cavaliers last night at home, winners of 4 of their last 5 after an uncharacteristic 4-game skid about 2 weeks ago. Booked as a double-digit home favorite against the Jalen Brunson-less New York Knicks, who have struggled against the top competition this season in general. New York jumps out to a 15-point lead midway through the second quarter. They led by 7 at the break, only for the Cavaliers to rally in the second half to win by 19 points, 124-105, and still find their way to a cover as a 10.5-point home favorite. The Cavaliers back on track. They have won 5 of their last 6, extending their lead for that one spot in the Eastern Conference now to 5 games over the Boston Celtics. And the New York Knicks, DRS, Jalen Brunson in the lineup or not, continue to mightily struggle against the best competition in their own side of the association. New York now 0-3 against Cleveland, 0-3 against Boston, 0-6 straight up, and against the number against both the C's and the Cavs this season.
Yeah, and Jalen Brunson with the longest, recovery time in the history of professional sports with an ankle injury where they tell us, we don't want him at 99.8. We want him at full 100%. And you're right about this. We watched football down the stretch in December. There are meaningless games, but nobody ever says, can we just fast forward to the playoffs when you hit week 14? No, we love it every single night and every single weekend. Like in the NBA, we are just waiting for the playoffs with these meaningless games down the stretch. Like, hey, let's see what happens here. And the Cleveland forgot about this game. Oh, we're going to blow the Knicks out. Oh, no, we're down almost 20 points here. Let's start to play basketball and then beat the Knicks by 20 points. It's still NBA basketball. It's still on TV. We'll watch and we'll still handicap and bet. But it's the only sport, it feels like to me, outside of baseball's final 2 weeks, which take place in football season. We just need to see the playoffs because I think the energy returns. Like the Knicks in a playoff game versus the Cavaliers, we're all over that, Ben. That's 3 and 4 segments in a day. What's going to happen here? Ebbs and flows. Are you going to bet them one night here? Can they come back the next night when they had a bad performance 3 nights previous? Those are fun nights. It's amazing how the NBA has a meaningless regular season, and then we get excited again for the 2.5 month run in the playoffs where we finally see competitive basketball on a night-to-night basis.
And it looks like competitive basketball, and it's not just a scoring affair. You even see some intensity on the defensive end of the floor. But a big victory for Cleveland because entering last night, Boston had won 9 straight. They had really cut the deficit to only 4 games of a difference in the Eastern Conference. And after last night, both Cleveland and Boston just 6 games remaining in this regular season. So now the Cavaliers, a 5-game lead for that number 1 seed with only 6 games left. It is virtually signed, sealed, and delivered. Also for Cleveland, who was the best covered team all year in the NBA, they have now been passed by the Oklahoma City Thunder. They had only covered 2 times in their last 9 games. Winners of 4 of their last 5 entering last night, and of course, including that 4-game slide just a few weeks back. They cover as a double-digit home favorite, trailing by 15 points early in the opening half. For the New York Knicks, DRS, it's really been a struggle this year. 0-8 against the teams that have a better record than them at this moment. That would be Oklahoma City out west, and of course the 2 top teams in the Eastern Conference, Boston and Cleveland. Of course, there's more of a focus on the Cavaliers and the C's because that's the team New York would have to get past those 2 teams to win an Eastern Conference crown to even play in the NBA Championship Series for the first time in 2.5 decades. Here's the outlook for the New York Knicks. Again, 0-6, both straight up and against the number, booked as an underdog in 5 of those 6 games against Boston and Cleveland. So, Donnie, do you give the New York Knicks any shot of even making the Eastern Conference Finals at that plus 470 price, knowing they would have to run into, more than likely, the Boston Celtics in a 7-game series in that second round to even get there?
Nope. As you just laid it out, like the proof is in the pudding on what we've seen throughout this season with the New York Knicks. Against competition you should handle, they do it. When you step up in competition, you don't handle it so well. And also understand this again. It's not the NCAA tournament, Ben, where the Knicks go, hey, man, we get one really good game against Boston. We're moving forward. No. You have to beat the Boston Celtics and or the Cleveland Cavaliers 4 times in 7 games. They haven't shown to do that on a night-to-night basis with 1 game. How could I trust the Knicks at that point now? I can't.
Yeah, I don't think there's any value in any of those numbers, frankly, on the New York Knicks because it is not a proven price that you can really get in love with. The New York Knicks right now would more than likely host the Milwaukee Bucks in the opening round, but they'd have to head to Boston in round number 2. More around the NBA, looking at those playoff standings next.
Can you handle the heat? If you don't mind the desert at the hottest, consider visiting Vegas in the summer, where the temperatures are high and the prices are low. Have fun! See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
About a week and a half remains in this NBA regular season in 2024-25. Again, entering our 9-game slate on a Wednesday around the association. Every NBA club, all 30, had played at least 75 games of their 82 in the regular season. So everybody 7 games or fewer down this home stretch. DRS a week from Sunday. Thankfully, the NBA regular season comes to a close. Let's take a look at where the playoff picture stands in both conferences. What is still outstanding? What needs to be figured out in the next 10 days or so? Playoff picture in the Western Conference. This is just the top 6 teams. The teams that would be in the playoffs, not having to deal with the play-in tournament to begin the NBA postseason. The Thunder have already clinched the best record in the Western Conference. They have already clinched that number 1 spot. They have won 11 in a row. It's really after that, DRS, where it gets interesting. The Rockets, pretty good. 50-27. Only 5 games remain. And they have a 3.5 game lead, or 3-game lead for that spot between the distinction there with the Lakers in the 3 spot. The Lakers a game up on the Denver Nuggets, who lost last night at home after the double overtime thriller. Maybe not so much for Denver on Tuesday night against Minnesota, but a pretty good gap there for the Nugs. 2 games in front of the Warriors, who now have a half-game lead over Minnesota, and that's how the top 6 stands. It really does seem OKC, of course, has clinched that number 1 overall seed, and Houston is in a great position with a 3-game advantage over the Lakers to hold on to that 2 spot as well atop the Western Conference standings.
And here's also the addition of, wait a second, you're telling me the Western Conference this year is going to have a number 1 seed OKC and the number 2 seed the Houston Rockets. What actually happened to the standby blue bloods of this conference that typically can roll through? Now understand this as well. We do discredit teams that haven't done it before. Rockets 15-27. Good luck in the playoffs when they face a rested and ready veteran team that maybe has won championships in the past. And we're still doing the same thing to Oklahoma City. The regular season is one thing. Yeah, they might win 70 games, but wait till they get to the playoffs. I don't necessarily think that stands up because it's repeatedly every time we look at OKC, they're on another run, and particularly this time, an 11-game run to end the season. So they're not taking their foot off the gas pedal. They're still playing their best basketball of the season. But the questions are always going to be there. 7-game series. You take on the Lakers. It's LeBron James. It's Luka Doncic. They're going to be rested, not playing on back-to-backs in different cities each and every night. The Denver Nuggets. You're going to have to play them in elevation. They're going to get a couple days off and some breaks here for Nikola Jokic, who's putting up 60-point triple-doubles late into the season. The Golden State Warriors, who add Jimmy Butler to that lineup, are already a championship-made team from a few years back, and Steph Curry playing great basketball to end the season. Those are the question marks that come up, which is why we ask, like, are they worthy? Yeah, look at Houston. They're 3 games ahead of the Lakers and Nuggets. That's a good spot to be in, the number 2 spot, to try to avoid OKC as long as possible. But you will play quality teams across the way, talking about the Lakers and the Nuggets once again, and the Warriors. I'm interested to see where they fall back, or also, once we get to the playoffs, who are going to be the favorites when these teams actually play each other? Are we going to disregard the Rocket season and say they're too young, we don't trust them, let's go with LeBron and the veterans here, or otherwise?
That's what the odds makers are saying right now. OKC, a minus money favorite to win the Western Conference crown at minus 145. Second best price, a plus 650 number on the Lakers. That was a 9-1 price after the blockbuster deal to acquire Luka Doncic. The Lakers right now, I said they have an advantage over the Nuggets only based on tiebreaker. 46-29 the record for the Lakers, 47-30 for the Nuggets. One more win, but one more loss now for Denver. The Lakers currently that 3 seed. It is really interesting, DRS, to see the price on the Houston Rockets. That again, with only 5 games left, have a 3-game advantage over the LA Lakers, and yet are a 35-1 number to win the Western Conference crown. I bet Houston right around the All-Star break, where they were also in the 2 spot at a 17-1 price, just with a small pizza bet, hoping they would be in a 2 or 3 spot, hosting a playoff series to begin, and yet they're probably not even going to be the favorite in that series, because lurking in some of those play-in spots, the Memphis Grizzlies and the LA Clippers. Donnie, this is only the top spot that we see right now, the top 6 in that Western Conference picture, but you see it there. Golden State, the 5 seed. Minnesota, the 6 seed. The Clippers, the 7. The Grizzlies, the 8. Those 4 teams are separated by only a half game right now, where the T-Wolves, the Clippers, and the Grizzlies, all at 44-32, have the same exact record at this moment.
Yeah, that's where the excitement's actually going to be, to see who's actually going to avoid the play-in rounds, because that's going to be an important thing. But also understand this. You hear Ben and I, and particularly me a lot, just railing on the NBA regular season. You can't even equate this sport to other sports. As Ben just brought up, the Rockets, not to win the NBA championship, to win their own conference, who currently sit with a 3-game lead over the third-place team to be the number 2 overall seed, are 35-1, 7th in the actual odds standing at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Can you imagine last year, like, okay, well, the number 1 seed is Detroit, but the Philadelphia Eagles, who are the 2 seed, 35-1 to win the NFC. It doesn't make sense, because this tells you the tale. The regular season is absolutely meaningless in the NBA, and that's a problem for them. But getting around them, at least we do have some interest here. Do you remember LeBron James a couple years ago? Man, it's the stupidest thing in the world, this playing round. Actually saved LeBron James and the Lakers from getting to the playoffs and keeping them in it, because we have those playing rounds. But now you take a look and say, the Timberwolves, 44 wins. The Clippers, 44 wins. The Grizzlies, 44 wins. It's life and death over the final half dozen games or so of the season, because you want to get that 6 seed, because the pressure is off you at that point. You don't have to play extra games just to make it into the top 8 seeds once we get to the playoffs themselves. So I'm interested in a huge game tonight, by the way, for the Memphis Grizzlies, getting the Heat on a back-to-back. They need every win they can get. 2-8 in their last 10 games. Unacceptable, where that team we thought might be fighting for where the Rockets are for the 2 seed.
Memphis in a tailspin. They have fired their head coach in Taylor Jenkins. Ja Morant being investigated for a finger gun celebration by the NBA. The Grizzlies have dropped 8 of their last 10, including riding a 4-game skid at this moment. DRS, I bet Memphis, before the year got started, over 46.5 with the return of Ja Morant. They were on a world beater pace to get to 50. Sky over that number. They've got 6 games remaining. They need to win at least half of those 6 for me to cash a bet I was celebrating back in January. How things can change rather quickly, but a big spot for Memphis tonight to head to South Florida to take on Miami.
Yep.
But the Heat have now won 6 consecutive games. Really big one in LA tonight as well. Lakers hosting the Dubs. It is basically a pick'em. And DRS, just to highlight your point on the Houston Rockets, here is how insane Houston with the 2nd spot in the Western Conference standings and yet being a 35-1 price to win their own conference championship is. Let's say these odds these standings go exactly as we expect. The Clippers are the 7th seed. They make their way through that play-in tournament. And let's say the Memphis Grizzlies are the 8th seed. That would mean that Houston hosts the LA Clippers. And in that series, the Clippers would be a pretty substantial favorite despite not having home floor advantage in a best-of-7 series to begin against the Rockets.
Exactly, and that's the confounding issue that you have where you line up the regular season and we throw everything out at the end and we just ask questions, who is going to be healthy? Just a few short years ago, it was the Brooklyn Nets and their big 3 players. If they're healthy, we don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs, but if they do, they probably are a favorite to win the NBA championship. It's crazy the way it plays out, but these are the rules that are laid out upon us here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. You might find a gem. Again, just getting back to the Rockets, 35-1 as the 2 seed to win their own conference, which means if they just hold serve and make it into the finals for the Western Conference, that ticket is a gold mine at 35-1. So pick and choose as you please at this point, but what they're telling you at the FanDuel Sportsbook, the regular season does not matter. Just focus on the playoffs, the superstars, and if they're healthy.
There is a market right now to even make it to the conference semifinals in both sides of the NBA. Houston is plus 138 even to get to the second round, minus 166 to not. Again, they would be an underdog in their opening round series, that 2-7 matchup, despite having home floor advantage and the second best record around the Western Conference through 82 games. Let's talk some Major League Baseball in the LA Dodgers up next.
Here's a tip for my fellow golfers and gamers. Do you want to book a golf trip to Vegas? For the best weather, aim for spring and fall. But the best prices, aim for summer and winter. But if you're looking for that sweet spot, try June. You get the August prices without that scorching heat. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball on a Thursday morning, live right here on the Early Line, recapping a very full Wednesday slate around the sport. The reigning World Series champs, the Dodgers, who entered this year as a very short favorite to go back-to-back, with a roster that looks like an all-star team, both in the starting staff and, of course, in the batting order 1 through 9. Living up to that expectation to begin DRS. Now, a perfect 8-0 start. But yesterday was some late game drama and a rally to accomplish just that. 6-5 the victory for LA over the Atlanta Braves. The Dodgers were booked as nearly a $2.50 money line favorite at home, but they got off to a 5-0 deficit. The Atlanta Braves had scored 5 runs in the first 2 innings to lead 5-zip. The Dodgers then started their rally, which led us to the bottom of the 9th, a tied game at 5-all. Shohei Ohtani at the dish, and Shohei Ohtani over the wall. A walk-off home run to deliver the Dodgers a perfect start, continuing now at 8-0.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. It's understandable because the excitement around the Dodgers was they're building a team that looks like you're not going to be able to beat them on a day-to-day basis. Now they sit in 0 and it's 8-0, and it's starting to prove true. But also yesterday, these are the scary times. Like for you, the Braves, you are just looking for any break that you can get, knowing you're a quality baseball team. Let's just get that one win and we can move forward with our season. You jump out to a 5-0 lead where the Dodgers gave you that for an error upon error upon error. Like, all right, 5-0. Maybe we tack on 1 or 2 late in this game and we'll walk away with a victory. Well, I see this a lot as the Philadelphia Phillies are the ultimate hot and cold lineup. 5 runs in the first 2 innings. You don't play a single run the rest of the way against one of the best lineups in baseball, and they start to chip away at that and then finally get to your bullpen late, which included Shohei Ohtani hitting that walk-off home run, which I needed Mookie Betts to get to the plate and get a base hit. So when I saw that pop up on my icon, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then you go, no, that makes sense. It's Shohei Ohtani, the best player in baseball, hitting a walk-off home run against an absolute flamethrower closer in his own building to dead center field. It's just what he does. But from a perspective of the Dodgers going like, doesn't matter what the score is, what the inning is, what pitcher you have, we're always going to be the best environment and the best team here. And then you take a look at the Braves again, just looking to get a single victory with a 5-0 lead. You can have a more demoralizing loss than that. Because coming into the game, right, we got Elder on the mound. You got Snell, one of the best pitchers in baseball. Boy, if we can hang around, maybe it's a moral victory. There are no moral victories when you have a 5-0 lead and you blow the 5 runs and lose 6-5. It's almost like a double loss in the loss column for the Braves last night.
Blake Snell, 4 innings of work, 5 runs allowed, but not earned runs against him because of the Dodgers' miscues in the field. The Dodgers entered yesterday at 7-0, matching the 1933 New York Yankees for the best start by a reigning World Series champ in the history of MLB. Now make it 8-0. The Dodgers are now just trying to match that 13-0 start we saw out of the Rays a few years back for the best ever start around Major League Baseball. And they'll be booked as a hefty favorite to get that done. To Donnie's point, in 162 games, LA is going to lose a few. But we'll talk about this record-setting pace for Los Angeles a little bit later on. For the Atlanta Braves, still winless, 0-7. The Braves entered the year with the second-best price to win the National League pennant, only behind LA. Not a great start, because the Braves were swept by the Dodgers. The Braves were also swept in their opening 4-game series by the San Diego Padres, who then, in their second set in Southern California, end up sweeping the Cleveland Guardians. The Padres off to a perfect 7-0 start as they knocked off Cleveland yesterday 5-2. San Diego a -188 favorite on the money line, making good on that number. 7-0 start for the Padres, 2-4 more humble beginnings for Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland's going to, again, the AL Central and the NL Central are going to probably be up for grabs the entire season, but the one division, it looks like it's saying, well, we got 2 playoff teams here, no doubt about it. That's the Padres and the Los Angeles Dodgers, built the same way. Exciting lineup with a lot of speed, a lot of energy there, but also pitching staffs, both bullpen starting pitching that can combine together and be devastating. Look at Dylan Cease yesterday, 6 1/3 innings pitched, only 1 earned run, 7 Ks in that to have a good bounce-back start from his first appearance of the season. The Padres are expected to be really good. Do we expect them to be like 7-0 good and hanging with the Dodgers within 1 or 2 games when they're both playing 800 baseball or so in the month of April? Yeah. We'll see as the season goes on. But it's no surprise at this point. But the fun part is you're identifying now Major League Baseball, the good young players, and wrapping up their arbitration years. Like Jackson Merrill, like, hey, I don't need to do anything anymore. I'm paid now. Like, no, he's performing well. 417 now in the season. Another big knock last night. This lineup is a lot of fun. And we're still waiting on Louis Arise to actually start hitting. He's hitting 148 and they're 7-0. That guy usually sets the table for the entire baseball team, but everybody else picking up the slack, as we stated. Tatis, Machado, Merrill, all having sensational seasons to open. And how about Gavin Sheets coming over, hitting 444 in the first week of the season? All systems a go for the Padres.
No doubt about it. DRS, you mentioned that batting average for Fernando Tatis Jr., 423. Also stole home yesterday for San Diego. You got a great start out of Dylan Cease. And Robert Suarez, one of the better closers maybe you haven't heard a ton about in Major League Baseball, already his third save this season. Meanwhile, for Atlanta, as we discussed earlier, 0-7 for the Braves. No team has started 0-7 and reached the Major League Baseball postseason. We shall see now in the expanded playoffs. Everybody in the AL Central already in midseason form. The Guardians 2-4, as are the 4 other teams in the division, all at 2-4. That's the American League Central for you. DRS, yesterday, a matchup between American League East divisional foes, the Boston Red Sox and the Baltimore Orioles, inside Camden Yards. The Red Sox blank Baltimore. They win 3-0 against the O's. Boston won its very first game of the year against the Rangers, then dropped 4 in a row, entering yesterday back into the win column for the Red Sox.
Yeah, how about that? Rafael Devers back into the win column for himself by actually getting a base hit, and he got 2 of them yesterday, which now lifts his average up to 0.87 on the season. But when you want to talk about trading for a pitcher, signing him long-term, and getting the first 2 starts of the season out of the way, that's Garrett Crochet. 8 innings pitched, 4 hits, no earned runs, 8 strikeouts, only 1 walk. Sensational start so far for the Red Sox and Garrett Crochet.
0-21 start for Rafi Devers at the dish in his new DH spot. So his first hit of the season, an RBI double, was a very welcome sight for the Red Sox. Zach Eflin picks up the loss for the O's. They are 3-3. Boston now 2-4. Plenty more here on the early line on the other side of the break, including Skiing Day for Pittsburgh next.
Can you handle the heat? If you don't mind the desert at the hottest, consider visiting Vegas in the summer, where the temperatures are high and the prices are low. Have fun! See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid, recapping a Wednesday around Major League Baseball that featured plenty of afternoon baseball as well, and a big victory for Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates on the road in Tampa. Of course, not at the Trop, but at George Steinbrenner Field. Paul Skeens, 7 innings of work, shutting out the Rays, only allowing 3 hits. He picks up win number 1 this season as the Buccos get a 4-2 victory against the Rays.
Yeah, much needed, too. Bucco's coming at the game 1-5, so you lean on your superstar to be that stopper, and that's exactly what he was. It wasn't if the Rays were playing bad baseball. They came in at 4-1, into this game. It's interesting to see how these games are going to play out in Tampa, if we get a lot of runs or not a lot of runs, because it's playing out completely different out in Sacramento. It seems like every single game is a launch pad at that ballpark, which, again, if you're not into the know right now, the Rays no longer playing at the Trop. They're playing outdoor at George Steinbrenner Stadium, which is in the heat and the elements and exact dimensions of playing in Yankee Stadium. So we should be getting more runs, hopefully, but maybe it just means the Tampa Bay Rays don't have a lot of pop in their bats and or have a very good pitching staff. But Skeens yesterday, 7 innings pitched, 1 run, which wasn't even earned at this point, 102 total pitches. It looks like he's in the same exact form, Ben, as we saw him last year when he was one of the best, if not the best pitchers in baseball over the second half of the season. It's a great thing to look forward to for the Pirates. But again, it's just the Pirates themselves. Like, Skeens is awesome. He dominates every day. Well, everybody else stinks except Skeens on the team. That's what's horrible to watch.
2-5, the record for the Pirates. Paul Skeens was great in his opener against the Marlins. The Pirates were winning that game, only for Miami to walk it off. 5 1/3 against Miami, 2 earned runs last week on opening day, 7 Ks for Paul Skeens. They win their second game of the year in Skeens' first victory of the season. Again, 7 innings of work, did not allow a single earned run, 1 scored against him, 3 hits given up only, and 6 strikeouts. 13 total Ks for Skeens in his first 2 starts of this season. And, Donnie, it really does seem, as the Pirates were a road -118 moneyline favorite, around a pick'em favorite number, that the few times this year the Buccos will be booked as a favorite with Paul Skeens on the mound, that does seem to make some sense. Elsewhere around Major League Baseball, the Tigers looking for the sweep up in Seattle against the Mariners, but the M's had other ideas. Seattle winning 3-2, meaning the Tigers, like everybody else around the AL Central, off to a 3-2 start. Seattle gets the 3-2 win. They're at 3-4 now in the early going of this MLB season.
And by the way, not a bad start per se at a Tarek Skubal, but on the season right now, Ben, ERA close to 6 after 2 games as Detroit drops to 2-4. So that flavor of the month entering into the season, can they win the, American League? Can they be a player in the playoffs? Can they make the World Series? Can Skubal repeat as a Cy Young Award winning pitcher here? But also you got Luis Castillo, one of those guys that he still seems young to me at this point, but it's certainly a year after year after year solid veteran. 7 innings pitched, 2 earned runs in the victory. His ERA on the season sits at a 3. This is what you get in Seattle. A lot of lower scoring games. The only thing that's interesting is that Skubal, 0-2 to start the season. He was damn near unhittable last year.
And Tarek Skubal did, as the American League Cy Young rating champ, have to face the Dodgers and then the Mariners yesterday. He allowed 4 earned on opening day in LA against the Dodgers. 2 home runs given up, 3 earned yesterday. And that's why the ERA is elevated, of course, in only 2 starts in the early going of this season for Tarek Skubal, but did give up a home run to Dylan Moore as well, only for the Tigers to rally to make it competitive. But when Seattle scored 3 early on, they held that advantage, and Luis Castillo was really good on the other side for the M's. But, Donnie, 3 home runs given up by Tarek Skubal in his first 2 starts this season. He was the short favorite to win American League Cy Young at +350. Garrett Crochet, who was great yesterday against the O's, a shutout in 8 innings for the Boston Red Sox, has now flipped Skubal as the favorite. 3-1 +450 for Skubal. Paul Skeens, a 2-1 price entering the year, now down by 30 cents at +170. The most movement we have seen around Major League Baseball in just a week in the individual award races, MVP and now Cy Young.
Yeah, and again, we're only 1 week in, but it is a little bit different. Like hitters, you figure you have the entire season to bring it up. And I don't mean you start like Rafael Devers, like hitting 0 for the first week, and now you got to dig out of your, own grave. hitting still under 100. But you take a look at the pitchers here moving, like they're going to be injuries. It's a long season here. And Skubal, yes, has had 2 starts. He's going to get 25 more starts the rest of the year to try to dominate. Then you take a look at the National League. Skeens has been great. And Zach Wheeler, I don't know if Zach Wheeler ever had a bad start with the Phillies. Like, I know he has, but it seems like every time he starts, you're going to get 7+ innings of one-hit baseball, it feels like.
Hour number 2 on the early line comes your way up next.